Chapter 7, practice test. Oh yeah, gonna get an A, gonna get an A, gonna get an A. First one, a model is made of a car. The car is 9 feet, model 6 inches. First thing I notice is that units are not the same. So I know I'm going to have to change my feet into inches so that they are the same units. The other thing that I'm going to notice here is that it's asking for the model to the car. So model should go first. So the 6 should go first. And then changing it to inches would be 108. Now, that's a funny looking 8. You should make sure, see if you can simplify it. They're both divisible by 6. So 6 divided by 6 will give me 1. 108 divided by 6 will give me 18. So this is where you have to be super careful about these tests in geometry. Because if you were to circle A and put an A up there, you would be wrong. It should be 1 to 18. Again, why? Because it's asking for model to the actual. And the model is the smaller one. Next question. The angles in a triangle are extended in this ratio. So first I have to know what's the total measurement in a triangle is 180. So all the angles equal 180. And remember, just like how we simplified the problem above, you're going to have to figure out what did we simplify this ratio by. So all of these, so this is my ratio, were simplified by some number. We have to figure out what that some number is. So the x would be the sum number that the ratio was simplified because the total is going to give me 180. So if I do 3x plus 7x, that gives me 10x. 15x is equal to 180, and then divide 180 divided by 15. You get x is 12. However, that's not the answer. It's asking, always make sure to go back and read the question. Read it over. What is the measure of the smallest angle? That's what I'm looking for. Well, my smallest angle is this ratio right here. So this is what I simplify the ratio by. So then I have to multiply it back. So that's why I call it a multiplier. So it'd be 36. Beep, 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 beep. Question 3. So looking at this proportion first to help me. It's saying I did x plus 3 over 3. So I did the bottom plus the top over the bottom. Same thing here. So this ratio would be the same thing as if I do not have the 3 right up here. So this would be the same thing as y over 2. Because I got rid of the bottom portion. So if you get rid of the bottom portion, it would just be si senora. Next one. Are the polygons similar? If so, write a similarity statement. It's very important to know that when you are doing a similarity statement, to make sure the sides are similar, all sides, every single side has to be proportional. That means the scale factor, there's only one scale factor and they all have to be the same. So when looking at this to figure out my scale factor, I'm going to take my small and compare it to my small. So 2.5 over 2.5. Next, I'm going to take my next largest over my next largest, which would be 3 over 3. Next, I'm going to take my third largest over my third largest, 6 over 9, and my largest over my largest. Now, this is one question where a lot of people get wrong because they think, oh, look it, these two are the same, and these two are the same, because they would simplify both to be 2/3. However, that's not the case. That's not the case because all 4 of these have to be the same, and they're not all 4 the same. So no, the polygons are not similar. D as in dog. Question number 5 is telling me these are already similar. Well, good gosh darn it, that's awesome. So if I already know that they're similar, then you should assume then that the corresponding side, so this would be proportional here, here, and here, and here, and here. Because it's already stating that they are similar. So I can write up a proportional statement. X minus 3 over 2.5 would be equal to, and I use this one and this one. It doesn't matter which other two you want to do, so I'm just going to do 8 over 2. One thing I like to do is 8 over 2 can be simplified as 4 over 1. Now I'm getting rid of this division on both sides. I don't want that division there, so opposite of dividing would be multiplying. So I'm going to multiply this side by 2.5 and multiply this side by 1. Well, the next thing about multiplying by 1, it's the exact same. And then 2.5 times 4 would give me 10. And then I have to add my 3, so x would be equal to 13. Hey! Question number 6. A scale drawing of a solar system is 1 millimeter to 500 kilometers. For a planet with a diameter of 5,000 kilometers, what should the diameter of the drawing be? So one thing here, when we're dealing with units, you do not have to change 500 kilometers to millimeters. You just have to make sure that your units match up. So since this is real is on bottom, I can make sure to put the 5,000 on bottom. And again, as long as you have 2 kilometers, that just means your answers on top will both be millimeters. So again, you do not have to change kilometers to millimeters, but go ahead if it really makes you feel better about your life, go for it. Again, I want to get rid of this division. So I multiply by 500. And I multiply by x. And I multiply by 5,000. And then I divide by 500, and then I can get rid of those zeros. Get rid of the 5, and then x, because I divide by 500, x would be equal to 10. So 10 millimeters. Again, 10 millimeters should be what the diameter is. Next question. Are the triangles similar? I don't know. Let me figure it out. Remember, these are the 3 ways that we can prove similarity. One thing I know by looking at this, I can for sure cross out this one because you need to have 3 sides in order to show that 3 sides are proportional. I for sure can cross out this one. Why? Because you need at least 2 sides. You need 2 sides in an angle or else 2 sides in an angle. I do not have 2 sides. I don't have any sides. So I'm looking to see if the angles are congruent. At first glance, I would say no because it looks like I only have these 2 congruent. However, because you can't beat me, I know, and by you, I mean me, I know that all the angles in a triangle are equal to 180. So I could do 180, subtract 84.6, subtract 30.4, and you would get that this angle right here is 65. Well, since there are not 2, because there's only 1 angle, even though I found this, it's not the exact same as this one, I would say no. Bummer. So sad. D as in dog. State whether the triangles are similar. If so, write a similarity statement. One thing I notice here again, I can't prove angle because I only have 1 angle. There's no way I can figure out my third. But they're congruent, so that's good. And I have 2 sides. So I have angle, I have 2 sides. That means I have to make sure that they go in the format side, angle, side, side, angle, side. And so I know I can already cancel this. I can cancel this one. Now I have to check to make sure they're proportional. When you're doing side, angle, side, I'm going to do my smaller length, so 16, and you have to make sure it's over your smaller length. So again, this is my smaller length of the 2, and this one's my smaller length. See if that's proportional to your larger length over your larger length. So both of these simplify to be 2 over 1 and 2 over 1. So yes! I'm so happy! Aren't you girls happy?
Yeah.
Yay! They're similar by side, angle, side. Next question. A lot of people get confused about this one. Now it's asking you for the height of the tree. So first thing I'm going to do is put an X right here. So I know for sure I'm going to be comparing my height to my height. So that right there is going to be 1 fraction. That's going to be 1 proportion. So I can put X over 160. I have to figure out what other proportion to use. Now we have 2 options because we have 2 numbers here. But you have to be careful. I can either use this, and this would be kind of like the shadow, over the whole shadow. Because remember, this is the small over the whole large. This is small over the whole large. Or else I can use this small over the whole large. And one thing that you notice when you do this is that these 2 are congruent, and these 2 are congruent. So I do know what the whole large is equal to. Because if this is 120, the whole thing is 240. If this is 144, the whole thing would be 288. So I'm going to use this one just because. So it would be my small over my large. And again, I want to get rid of that division. So actually before I even do that, I'm going to simplify this fraction here. So this is the same thing as 1 over 2. Why am I doing that? Just because it makes it easier for my mental math. So I want to get rid of this division. So I multiply by 2, I get 2x. I want to get rid of this division. Multiply by 1, I get 160. And then divide by 2. So 160 divided by 2 would give me 80 feet. Hey! Next problem. So one thing I notice here that is given that OP is parallel to NQ. So now those properties from 7.5, those apply. So now when I'm talking about, unlike this one when I had to make sure to add, I can do the small segment. So I could make this right here a fraction is equal to a fraction. So I'm going to write that down. So it would be 9 over 18 would be equal to, because they're proportional, they're similar. Again, because I just like to make life easier myself, 9 over 18 is the same thing as 1 over 2. So if I get rid of this division, I multiply this side by 2. So I have 2x. And over here, I have to get rid of this division. The opposite of dividing would be multiplying. Multiply by 2, divide by 2, x is 10. Dun, 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 dun. Next question. Find the value of x. First thing I notice, they're all parallel. So again, when they're parallel, you have your fraction, equal fraction, right then and there. So I have 24 over x is equal to 36, and 6 can both be divisible by 12. That's the same thing as 3 over 1. So again, you could use 36 over 12 if you want to. Get rid of the dividing. So I multiply by 1, I get 24. Get rid of the division. Multiply by x, I get 3x. Divide by 3, and I get x is equal to 8. A. It says LO bisects angle NLM. Remember, this is the same thing, the same property that we have. Once we know that bisects that angle, we have a proportion that we can write up. So first I'm going to write in here that LM is equal to 18, and I have NO is equal to 4, and LN is equal to 10. So your two type of equations that you could write up could be 10 over 18 is equal to 4 over x. Or you could have 4 over 10 is equal to x over 18. If you notice, it doesn't really matter which way you do it, because when I cross multiply, when I get rid of that division, it's the same two numbers being multiplied. And like I've said, I like to simplify. I'm going to do this one. Both of these are divisible by 2, so I have a 5 and a 9. So I can cross multiply. I have 5x is equal to 30. Yep, 36. Divide by 5. And x is equal to, well, 35 divided by 5 is 7. So I know it's going to be 7 points. And then 1/5 is the same thing as 2/10, which is 2. So A. If you didn't know, I just did that in my head. Booyah!
That's funny.
Look at this. It's getting tougher. I'm going to zoom in so I have more space. Solve the proportion. So I have to get rid of this division. Remember, when you get rid of division, you're multiplying. So I would have x times x plus 3 to get rid of this division is equal to 10 times x minus 1 to get rid of this division. And now I have to simplify. So x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x equals 10x minus 10. Remember, you have to move everything over. So I'm going to subtract my 10x. I'm going to add my 10. So again, that's getting rid of these two over here. So I have x squared minus 7x, because 3x minus 10x is negative 7x, plus 10 is equal to 0. Now you can factor. You could use a quadratic formula. I would highly suggest not to. So I'm going to write out my factors of 10. So it's 1 and 10, 2 and 5. So these two numbers multiply to get 10. But also, if I make both the numbers negative, it also multiplies to get a positive 10. Why am I doing that? Because I want to figure out what two numbers add to get negative 7. These numbers right here. By golly gee golly. So I can rewrite this as x minus 2 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now I have this multiplication right here. I can solve for x. I'm trying to figure out what values of x would make this whole equation 0. So now I have this multiplying. I can set both of them equal to 0. And I have x minus 2 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. So I add the 2 over, I get x equals 2. I add the 5 over, I get x equals 5. Bing, bada, boom. Not as hard as you thought, huh?
She is a
Next
kid.
one. Yep. So it's saying we have a map. No matter what, that map's dimension is going to be 2 feet by 3 feet. So we already know the dimension of the map. It has to be a 2 by 3. So that's the ratio of the map. But we have a piece of paper. It's 8 by 10. So we're trying to figure out what are the possible, or what is the dimensions of the largest possible map that we could have. So we have 2 options. This 2 over 3 is not going to change the dimension of the map so that it looks right. Now either we're going to use the whole length of the 8 inches, so I can write up one proportion. Now 8 is the smaller dimension, so it should be across from the smaller ratio. And we're going to have to figure out what that is. Or else we can use the length of the larger dimension. So the larger would be 10. And we would have to figure out what that number is. So we're solving 2 separate equations. So I'm solving both these equations, getting rid of my division. So I have 2x is equal to 24. So x would be equal to 12. Or, a big or, because it's not going to be both answers, 20 is going to be equal to 3x. And when I do 20 divided by 3x, let me just do that quick, I get 6 2/3 would be equal to x. So I have 2 options here. If you look back at the original, in this one we used the 8, so this would be 8 inches by 12 inches. And this one we used the 10, so it would be 6 2/3 inches by 10 inches. Only one answer can be right. So again, when I'm looking at this, it has to be in between 8 and 10. So this is not in between 8 and 10. 12 is too big. 12 would go off the paper. So this one, no go. So 6 2/3 by 10, that would be my dimension that could fit on the 8 by 10. Next. Question 15. Are these similar? Well, it looks like I'm going to try to prove side, side, side. How do I know that? Because when I look at this picture, I only have all 3 sides. So first I'm going to write up my equations. So I have my smallest length. That should be compared to my smallest length, which is the 12. That's how you know which numbers should go together. Here's my medium length with my medium length. So it would be 12 over 16. And my largest length with my largest length. And then you have to simplify. They have to be in small simplification. Otherwise, you might not know that they're all the same, but they actually are. So these are both divisible by 3. So this is 3/4. These are both divisible by 4, which would be 3/4. These are both divisible by 5, which is 3/4. Are they similar? Yes. So by side, side, side similarity. Now I have to write a similarity statement. Triangle. So now be careful. Always draw your first triangle first. So I'm going to go with my small, medium, large. So that would be MPX. So again, just to make sure I did this, started at M, I trace over my smallest length, my medium, and then large. I have my little similarity symbol. I have to make sure to go in that same order. So I have to look at my small. So I have to go small, medium, large. It has to be in that order or else it's not correct. So my small is L, W, medium is W, A, and then large is A, L. There you go. All of this stuff is good stuff. This is good math right here. Yummy, yummy in the tummy. Question 16. Oh, and then I think I'm done with this page, and then we're done. Same thing that we have done before in the past, so you have to make sure to write that similarity statement. Again, the picture actually shows you where the fraction is that you could use. So that's what I'm going to write up. I'm going to write my x plus 4 over 2x plus 3 is equal to x minus 2 over x. Got to get rid of this division right here. So that would be x times x plus 4 equal to, got to get rid of this division. Now be careful with this because these two have to be in parentheses because you have to multiply them together. Now this right here, now that I have that, ooh, I'm going to multiply them up. I again have x squared plus 4x. Here you have to FOIL my first. 2x squared outside negative 4x inside plus a 3x and last minus 6. The one thing I notice is that I'm going to move over this x squared here, to move that over. I'm also going to subtract this 4x, and I don't have anything with that 6, minus 4x, because I want to set this equal to 0. And now I can combine these two. These two are like terms, they're both x squared, so I'm going to have x squared. Here, all three of these are like terms, so it would be these two from the FOIL, and then this 4 is how I move that over. That's positive 4, subtract. So negative 4 plus negative 4 would give me negative 8. Negative 8 plus 3 would give me a negative 5x minus 6. Again, I'm going to try to factor this. Now this one a lot of times people get wrong, because a lot of times they see 6 and 1, or else they say 2 and 3. Now you have to be careful. Now this has to multiply to get a negative number. So if it multiplies to get a negative number, only one number should be negative. Only one. And now when I add these together, these give me a negative 1. That's not what I'm looking for. They both cannot be negative because I'm looking to multiply to get a negative number. Here, this gives me a negative number. That gives me a negative 5. So that factors to be x plus 1x minus 6 is equal to 0. You set both of those equal to 0 because you're, again, finding out which two numbers actually multiply to, or that would work to solve to get 0 into my function. So either x is equal to negative 1, or, because I subtract the 1, x is equal to 6. Now for this one you have to be careful, because if you look back, oh, this is not going to, at the actual problem over here, now this is a real life situation. Unlike the very first question on this page, since this is dealing with actual lengths of a triangle, we cannot have this negative number right here. That would give me a negative length right there. You cannot have a negative length. So my only answer would be positive 6. Now, you could look through this to see if I was right. I'm hoping that I was right. I know for sure this one I'm right because I just did that. So there we go. And if you have any questions, make sure you're asking them. Otherwise, you, put up one hand, put up the other hand, smush them together too, give a high five. Can't wait to grade this test and get an A. It's for awesome. Have a great day.